My father looked me dead in the eyes, a cruel grin spreading across his face, and then he announced to 30 stunned guests that I was giving away my home. Just moments later, the sound of his hand cracking across my face ripped through the party music. It didn't just sting, it shattered everything, including whatever fragile bond we still had left. The night had started like any other Carter family celebration, loud, polished, and painfully rehearsed. Our house gleamed under crystal chandeliers, the marble floors reflecting gold dresses and half-finished wine glasses. A string quartet played near the windows, a backdrop to Atlanta's glittering skyline. From the outside, it was pure perfection, but inside, it always felt like a stage where I never got the right lines. 2 hours before that devastating slap, I'd arrived with a bottle of vintage wine and a polite, practiced smile. My mother barely looked up from the dessert table, where my sister Tara stood, surrounded by adoring friends. "Oh, good, Venus. Just put it on the bar," she said, her attention firmly on Tara. Tara, with her loud, room-filling laugh that just demanded attention, was playfully swatting her fiancé Ethan's arm, her diamond bracelet flashing. "You look tired," Mom added, still not turning to me. "You work too much." "I lead a company, Mom," I replied softly. "It's supposed to be work." She just hummed, completely distracted. "You should think about balance. Maybe help your sister get back on her feet. She's been struggling." That word had become the family's convenient excuse for everything Tara did. For years, she'd floated from one failed project to another, always cushioned by my parents' endless support. Meanwhile, every time I achieved something, the applause was always muted, quickly followed by reminders to stay humble. I drifted, greeting relatives and family friends, the usual crowd who thought they knew us. Aunt Nancy pinched my cheek, still treating me like a child. "Still single?" she smirked. "All those degrees, all that success, but no man yet." I forced a thin smile. "No, Aunt Nancy, no man yet." Her husband, Uncle George, raised his glass. "Maybe if you stop being so intimidating, sweetheart. Men don't like that." Their collective laughter scraped against my nerves. I found a quiet corner near the bar, pretending to check emails. Across the room, Tara basked in compliments. "She's such a free spirit," someone cooed, "not tied down like Venus." Another added, "Yeah, money isn't everything." I sipped my wine, swallowing the bitterness that burned in my throat. Dad moved through the room like a politician, shaking hands, his grin wide. He'd built his success on charm and control. When he finally reached me, his hand landed heavy on my shoulder. "You proud of your sister tonight?" he asked. I forced another smile. "Of course." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "You've done well for yourself. Maybe it's time you shared that good fortune. Family takes care of family." His tone wasn't a suggestion. It was a command, thinly wrapped in feigned affection. I just nodded, pretending to listen as he walked away to refill his drink. But my pulse quickened. There was something in his voice, something final, rehearsed, and dangerous. The music swelled, people gathered for a toast, and I caught Tara's eye. She looked almost nervous, almost guilty. Then Dad raised the microphone, and I knew the night was about to turn into something none of us would ever forget. The harsh sound of microphone feedback cut through the laughter like a knife. Conversation stopped, glasses lowered. My father stood center stage, his posture proud, his voice dripping with performance. "Tonight," he began, "we celebrate family, generosity, and the bond that keeps us strong." I already hated where this was going. I'd seen that gleam in his eyes before, right before he announced something that benefited everyone but me. He turned toward me then, a smile on his lips that didn't quite reach his eyes. And what better way to show that bond than a gift from one sister to another? Our hardworking Venus has decided to give her penthouse to her sister, Tara. The room erupted. Applause and gasps mingled. Some clapped out of shock. Others because that's what you did when the patriarch told you to. Cameras flashed. Someone shouted, "That's incredible." I froze, wine glass still in hand, my smile locked rigid. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. But then Tara covered her mouth in mock surprise, her voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. "Dad, really?" My mother dabbed at the corner of her eye. "This is so beautiful," she whispered. My stomach twisted. I could feel 30 pairs of eyes burning into me. waiting for me to nod and play along. My father extended his hand, expectantly, his palm open like a demand. "Come on, sweetheart," he said into the mic. "It's only fair. Your sister's been struggling. You can always buy another one." Something in me snapped. The years of silence, of smiling through their blatant favoritism, of writing checks and never, ever being thanked. It all collided in that single, burning moment. I set my wine glass down, the stem trembling slightly in my fingers. "No," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. It sliced through the applause like glass shattering. My father blinked, confused at first, as if the word didn't register. "What did you say?" I straightened my back, the weight of years lifting off my shoulders with every syllable. I said, "No. I'm not giving away my home." A ripple of whispers spread through the crowd. Aunt Nancy's mouth dropped open. Uncle George muttered, "Ungrateful." My mother's voice cut through them. "Venus, don't do this. You're embarrassing us." I turned to her, my voice rising a little now. "I've supported this family for years. I paid for half of this party, the wine, the chef, everything. But this is mine." Tara's eyes glistened, producing perfectly fake tears. "Venus, please. It's not like that." But it was exactly like that. My father's smile vanished. His jaw locked tight, microphone still in hand. "You're defying me," he said, stepping closer. His voice dropped low, but the room was so quiet, everyone heard it. Before I could even move, his hand came fast and hard. The sound echoed. My head snapped to the side, my skin burning. My earring flew off, rolling across the marble floor until it hit the leg of a chair. The room gasped in unison. No one moved. Not a single person stepped. By the way, if you're still with me after that bombshell, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because trust me, the story only gets wilder from here. You don't want to miss what happened next. I straightened slowly, touched my throbbing cheek, and looked at him. He waited for me to crumble, to cry, to apologize. Instead, I bent down, picked up my earring, and whispered, "Happy birthday, Tara." Then I turned and walked away. The hallway outside the banquet room was colder, quieter, like the air itself refused to carry the noise from inside. My cheek still burned, a furious heat against the chill marble. I pressed my hand to it, half expecting to see his fingerprints branded there. Behind the closed doors, the music had started again, a desperate attempt to pretend nothing had happened. That was my family turning shame into background noise. I walked faster, my heels striking the floor in a steady rhythm. I wasn't running. I was done running. In the reflection of a glass console, I caught my face. Calm. Detached. Eyes hard. That calm scared me more than the slap, because it meant something inside me had gone utterly still, like a lake right before a storm. I reached into my clutch and took out my phone. One tap. That's all it took. A single button, glowing blue. I stared at the screen for a second, then locked it. No one inside knew what that button meant, but I did. It wasn't rage driving me. It was precision. Months ago, my best friend Kayla had warned me, if they cross that line again, don't argue. Just call her. Grandma is the only one they fear. At the time, I'd laughed. I can handle them. Kayla had just looked at me and said quietly, "Handling isn't the same as being free." Now, her words echoed in my mind as I walked down the hallway. The string quartet song faded, replaced by muffled voices. My heels clicked like a countdown. I stopped by a floor-to-ceiling window. Atlanta's skyline shimmered beyond the glass, all those towers glowing, indifferent. Somewhere out there was my penthouse, the one they'd tried to strip from me with applause. My reflection stared back, half in light, half in shadow. The elevator chimed. I stepped inside, pressed the lobby button, and watched the doors close. My pulse slowed. Every floor that passed was another layer of control sliding back into place. In the lobby, the air smelled like white lilies and expensive perfume. I leaned against the marble wall and exhaled for the first time in hours. A text buzzed on my screen. "On my way." I typed one word back. Good. Then I turned my phone face down, slipped it back into my clutch, and walked toward the glass doors. Outside, the summer night was still warm, but I felt nothing. As I crossed the driveway, headlights swept over the entrance. A sleek black sedan pulled up, and a woman stepped out, tall, composed, her silver hair gleaming under the lights. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. I nodded once, she nodded back. Inside, laughter still spilled faintly from the windows. In 30 minutes, that laughter would stop. And when it did, everyone in that room would finally understand what happens when you try to humiliate the wrong daughter. The quartet was still playing when the doors of the banquet hall opened again, but every note felt hollow. The woman in silver hair walked in, her heels clicking like a new, more ominous countdown. Conversations froze mid-sentence. "Daniel Carter," she said, her voice even, cutting through the silence. "Explain why you laid a hand on your daughter." My father lowered the microphone, the color draining from his face. "Mother, it's not what you think." "Then tell me what I should think," Margaret replied, her cane striking the floor once, a sharp punctuation mark. "You humiliated Venus. You demanded her home like she was an ATM. And every one of you," her eyes swept the stunned guests, applauded. The silence that followed was heavy, crushing. Even the quartet stopped playing. My mother stammered, "Mom, please." "It was a misunderstanding. Be careful with that word," Margaret said, her gaze hardening. "You've used it to justify cruelty for years." My father straightened his tie, trying to regain some composure. "It was family business. She overreacted. That was my cue." I stepped out from the doorway, my voice calm but firm. "No," I told him. "That's not overreacting. That's setting a boundary." Margaret turned toward me, but didn't interrupt. She just raised her chin, her eyes fierce, and declared, "You have 5 minutes to find her earring." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Tara dropped to her knees instantly, her gown dragging across the marble. Guests shifted, unsure whether to help or hide. My father's jaw twitched, his eyes darting between his formidable mother and the crowd, many of whom were now openly filming him on their phones. "Mother, this isn't necessary," he said, his voice rising, betraying his panic. "It's absolutely necessary," she replied, her voice unwavering. "When a man strikes a woman, he kneels to pick up what he knocked down." No one moved. Even the air seemed to wait. Tara crawled a few steps, frantically searching beneath tables, mascara streaking down her face. My mother whispered her name, but didn't dare move closer. Phones were up now, capturing every angle, every second, streaming it all online. "Enough," Margaret finally said. "Stand up, all of you. This family has mistaken obedience for respect long enough." She faced my father directly, her words a hammer blow. "You run a company, Daniel, not a kingdom. And as of this moment, you run neither." He blinked. "What are you saying?" "I'm rewriting my will tonight. My estate, my accounts, everything goes to Venus." Shock rippled through the room like wind through glass. My mother gasped. Tara froze, still on her knees. "That's insane," my father barked. "You can't." "I can and I will." Her voice didn't rise, it only sharpened. "You embarrass me. You broke your daughter's dignity in public. You will live with that mirror." He tried to laugh, but it cracked, thin and broken in his throat. "You'll regret this." Margaret turned to the crowd, her gaze sweeping over their awestruck faces. "You've all seen enough. Remember what you witnessed." Then she looked at me. "Do you have the earring?" I nodded and opened my clutch. The pearl rested in my palm, small but radiant, under the chandelier. I walked to the center of the room and set it gently on the table. "There it is," I said quietly. No one spoke. My father looked at it like a bomb. My mother's hands trembled over her chest. Tara stared, eyes glassy and defeated. Margaret's gaze softened just slightly as she looked at me. "Venus," she said, her voice warm for the first time that night. "You owe them nothing. Take your things and go." I exhaled slowly, like releasing years of air I'd been holding. "Thank you." I turned to my father, who still stood frozen. "You wanted obedience," I said, my voice barely a whisper but potent. "You got silence instead. I hope it echoes." He took a step forward, desperate. "We can fix this," he pleaded. "You're still my daughter." I met his eyes. "Not tonight." Then I looked at Tara, still kneeling beside the table. "You could have told him no. You always could have." She swallowed, speechless. Margaret tapped her cane once more. "The party is over." Guests began to scatter, murmuring apologies and excuses. The quartet packed their instruments quickly, their faces pale. Even the air conditioning seemed to sigh, wanting out. I met Margaret by the door. Up close, her expression was fierce, but profoundly proud. "You've done well," she whispered, squeezing my arm lightly. "They finally saw who you are." "And who they are," I answered. She nodded. "Tomorrow, we'll sign the paperwork." I gave her a faint smile. "Make sure you rest tonight." "You too, child." As I walked out, the sound of heels and whispers trailed behind me. The night air hit my skin, warm, sharp, with the scent of cut grass and car exhaust. I looked back once through the glass wall. My parents frozen in the aftermath, Tara still kneeling, the pearl glinting on the table under the chandelier. It didn't look like victory. It looked like release. A black sedan waited outside. Kayla leaned against it, arms crossed. "So," she asked. "It's over," I said. She opened the door. "Let's go home." As we drove off, the house shrank in the rearview mirror, its windows glowing like fading embers. My reflection overlapped with the skyline ahead, calm, steady, untouchable. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just let the silence fill the space where their voices used to live. By morning, the video had gone viral. Someone had streamed the entire scene. The announcement, the refusal, the slap, and the moment my grandmother walked in. It spread across every platform with captions like, "Father slaps daughter over penthouse gift and family party turns into public meltdown." Reporters camped outside my parents' house by noon. Dad's business partners withdrew from pending deals. Mom's charity board quietly asked her to step down. Tara's engagement evaporated overnight. Ethan's family released a statement about values and stability. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. The world was saying everything for me. In my penthouse, morning light stretched across the floor-to-ceiling windows. Kayla scrolled through her phone, shaking her head. "They're trending," she said, and not in a good way. I poured coffee, the rich smell filling the quiet. "They wanted attention," I said. "Now they have it." She looked up at me, cautious. "Do you feel better?" I thought about it. The ache on my cheek had faded into a ghost of heat. "No," I said. "Not better. Just done." A new email blinked on my screen from Grandma Margaret. Subject, finalized. Body, the paperwork is complete. Everything is under your name now. Rest. I closed the laptop, leaned back, and let the stillness settle. For the first time in years, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. That evening, the city glowed beneath my windows like a map of everything I'd survived. I stood there, holding the pearl earring between my fingers, its smooth surface cool against my skin. Then I fastened it back into place. The reflection in the glass looked like someone I finally recognized. People think revenge is loud, that it burns and destroys. They're wrong. Real revenge is quiet. It's choosing yourself and never looking back. I picked up my phone, typed a message to Kayla. "Dinner tomorrow?" She replied with a heart emoji. I smiled. If you've ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you, or if you've ever had to draw a line in the sand, what did that moment feel like for you? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.